I discovered my daughter's plan to get rid of me while pretending to be drugged on the living room couch. My daughter thought I was asleep when I heard her whisper to my son-in-law, "We'll put this foolish old woman in a home after New Year's. I've already reserved her spot." She had no idea I had been pouring that tea down the drain for weeks and had recorded her every word. But before I continue, make sure you're subscribed to the Elderly Stories channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. We love to see how far our stories travel. It all started the day after my husband Michael's funeral. After 45 years together, I was devastated, but I still had my house, my savings, and my independence. Emily, my only daughter, showed up at my door with a suitcase. "I came to stay with you for a few days, Mom. No one should be alone after losing someone." I was touched by her unexpected kindness. Emily and I always had a complicated relationship. She was ambitious, since she was a little girl, always wanting more than we could give her. At 38, married to Daniel, a man who could never hold down a job for long, she always looked at our house with envy. It was a colonial mansion that Michael and I had restored over decades in the most sought-after neighborhood in the city. In the first few days, Emily was attentive. She prepared my meals, organized my medications, and took over the household chores. Every day at 8 in the morning, she brought me chamomile tea with honey in bed. "To help with your anxiety, Mom. The doctor said grief can affect your sleep." In April, something changed. I started feeling strangely tired even after sleeping for 10 hours. My mind was foggy. Sometimes in the middle of lunch, I would just forget what I was saying. "It's natural, Mom. You're 72 years old," Emily would say with that worried smile I now recognize as fake. Soon a routine was established. Tea at 8, confusion at 10, a nap at 11, and disorientation for the rest of the day. I started missing appointments, forgetting names and dates. But above all, I noticed that my lucidity always diminished after drinking my morning tea. In June, Emily began to accompany me to all my medical appointments. "I'm worried about my mother, doctor. She's been leaving the stove on. She gets lost inside her own house." The doctor looked at me with pity. "Unfortunately, this could be the beginning of dementia." I tried to protest, but the words came out slurred, my thoughts jumbled. Right after that, Emily and Daniel took over my finances. "Mom, we found overdue bills on your table. It's better to let Daniel handle this." My pension as a university professor and Michael's combined came to almost $16,000 a month. The house had been paid off for decades. My expenses didn't exceed $4,000, but somehow I was always short on money. "Where is my money going?" I asked Emily one morning. "Your medications are expensive, Mom. Just your clonazepam costs $300. Clonazepam. I had never taken that in my life. This was the first slip-up in her story, but I was too drugged to investigate. In September, I heard Emily talking to our neighbor. "It's so sad to see my mother like this. Alzheimer's is a cruel disease. Alzheimer's." When I tried to protest, my words would get tangled. Emily would just smile sadly and lead me back inside. The isolation was methodical. My book club. "Mom's not up for it. My friends of 40 years. It's better not to visit her now she gets agitated around people." Even my brother David, who lives down south, was pushed away when Emily told him I was having aggressive episodes. In October, I started pretending to be asleep on the sofa while Emily was on the phone. The realtor said the house is worth at least $3.5 million. As soon as we have power of attorney, we can sell it and transfer the money. I froze. Power of attorney. Sell my house. That night, I didn't drink the tea. I pretended to sip it and poured it out when Emily left. The next morning, my mind was clearer than it had been in 6 months. I did the same thing the next night. And the next. Within a week, I was absolutely certain. My own daughter was poisoning me. I went to an electronics store and bought a digital recorder. If Emily thought she could manipulate a woman who was a criminal law professor for 35 years, she was about to discover her fatal mistake. My plan was simple, but it required patience. First, I needed to document what she was putting in my tea. For 2 weeks, I kept the recorder hidden in my robe pocket every morning. One Monday in November, I captured the perfect moment. Emily was in the kitchen thinking I was still asleep. The geriatrician already signed the papers, she was saying on the phone, probably to Daniel. He says Mom shows all the signs of advanced dementia. We just need 2 more medical opinions. I kept my breathing steady as she continued. The nursing home costs $9,000 a month, but it doesn't matter. As soon as we sell the house, we can buy that beachfront condo and still have a nice investment left over. I felt a mix of horror and rage growing inside me. This wasn't just about the house. It was about declaring me incompetent, erasing my existence. The daughter I raised, whom I put in the best schools, even when it meant sacrificing my own needs. Don't worry, Emily continued. She won't remember anything tomorrow. I increased the dose of clonazepam. I'm also mixing it with a little zolpidem. In that moment, everything became clear. My own daughter was systematically drugging me, isolating me, and preparing to have me discarded. The next day, I collected a sample of the tea in a small jar, hiding it in the back of a sock drawer. Then I did the same for the next 3 days. Each sample was carefully labeled with the date and time. Meanwhile, I continued to pretend to be confused and disoriented. I let Emily and Daniel believe their plan was working. It was the hardest performance of my life, to witness my own orchestrated decline documented by my own daughter. In mid-November, I found documents in a folder on Emily's table. A detailed timeline of the plan. December, obtain medical documentation. January, file for conservatorship. February, institutionalization. March, sell the house. But the most shocking part was in a printed email. Emily had made a down payment on a beachfront condo valued at $1.8 million. The down payment, $300,000. Where did that money come from? My money. I needed an ally, but I had to be careful. Any false move would alert Emily. That's when I remembered Dr. Evans, the oncologist, who treated Michael until his final days. A sharp woman who always questioned Emily's controlling behavior during appointments. One morning when Emily left to take the car for maintenance, I called the doctor. Dr. Evans, I need your help, but no one can know. I quickly explained the situation, keeping my voice low, constantly checking the window for Emily's return. Linda, this is extremely serious. We need concrete proof before we make any accusations. I have the tea samples and recordings of her admitting she's drugging me. Bring everything to my office tomorrow. I'll also run some blood tests on you. If you're right, this is attempted murder. The next day, I told Emily I needed to get some routine tests done. I'll go with you, she said immediately. It's not necessary. My friend Teresa already offered. Teresa was an invention, but the taxi I called was real. Emily seemed suspicious. Mom, you can barely remember your own address. How are you going to the doctor alone? I can remember the address perfectly, 248 Acacia Street. Her face showed surprise for a moment. For weeks I had pretended not to remember basic information. I had to correct myself quickly. At least I think that's it. Or was it 284? I'm confused now. The relief on her face was visible. It's better if I go with you. Teresa is already on her way. It's fine. When the taxi arrived, I left before she could insist. In the office, Dr. Evans closed the door and hugged me. Linda, you seem perfectly lucid. It's because I haven't had my tea today. I showed her the tea samples, played the recordings. Her expression hardened with each new piece of evidence. I'm going to draw your blood now and send it to toxicology marked urgent. I'll also do a full cognitive exam. We need documentation that your mental health is intact. I spent the next 2 hours doing tests for memory pattern recognition and logical reasoning. Dr. Evans noted each result with an increasingly indignant expression. Linda, your scores are above average for your age group. There is absolutely nothing wrong with your cognition. At the end of the appointment, she handed me a small device. It's a hidden camera. Place it where you can film Emily preparing your tea. We need to capture the act. Before I left, Dr. Evans did one more thing. She drafted an official statement attesting to my full mental capacity, dated and signed. Keep this in a safe place outside your house. I got back before Emily became suspicious. When she asked about the tests, I made up a story about cholesterol and blood pressure. She seemed to believe me. That night, I installed the camera inside a book on the kitchen shelf, positioned perfectly to capture the counter where Emily prepared my tea every morning. The next day, I woke up earlier but stayed in bed pretending to sleep. At 7:30, I heard Emily in the kitchen. The camera was recording her every move. When she came up with the tea, I smiled gratefully and pretended to drink while she watched. As soon as she left, I poured it all into a plant. 3 days later, Dr. Evans called while Emily was out shopping. "Linda, the toxicology results are in. You have alarming levels of benzodiazepines in your blood, specifically clonazepam and zolpidem, in doses that could be fatal for someone your age if administered continuously." A chill ran down my spine. It wasn't just manipulation. It was an attempt to kill me slowly. My own daughter. And the footage? Perfect. We have clear evidence of her tampering with your drink. I've already sent everything to my lawyer, Ms. Hayes, a specialist in crimes against the elderly. What do we do now? Linda, the police are already aware of the situation, but before we act, we need to make sure you are safe. Is there somewhere you can stay temporarily? I can't leave the house yet. If I disappear, they'll know I'm onto them. Then we'll do something different. Keep up the act, but stop consuming anything she prepares, Ms. Hayes will file the evidence tomorrow and request an emergency protective order. I hung up the phone and heard the front door open. Emily was back. I quickly returned to my armchair, picking up a book and pretending to be confused about what I was reading. "Is everything okay, Mom?" she asked with false concern. "I'm trying to read, but the letters seem jumbled." I lied. "It's normal with your condition. I'll make you some tea to help you relax." I watched her go to the kitchen, knowing she was about to prepare another dose of her poison. The camera was recording everything. I smiled to myself. The game was about to change. December arrived with an unusual chill for our city. Emily ramped up her plan, convinced I was completely under her control. 2 more doctors were manipulated into diagnosing my supposed dementia. One of them didn't even examine me properly. He just accepted her account of my episodes and signed the papers. I kept acting, dropping things, forgetting the names of close relatives, staring blankly at the calendar. Inside, I was more alert than ever, documenting every move, every lie, every crushed pill in my tea. One afternoon, while pretending to sleep, I heard Emily on the phone. I already spoke with Dr. Mendez at the Rebirth Clinic. He'll facilitate the involuntary commitment. With 3 medical reports, we don't even need to go through a hearing. Daniel's voice responded on speaker. "I don't know, Em, what if someone questions it?" "Who's going to question it? Uncle David lives down south and barely calls. Her friends think she has Alzheimer's. Besides, I have incidents documented for months. Falls, aggression, delusions, all recorded. And after she's committed, the power of attorney will give me full access to her accounts and properties. We sell the house, pay for the home with her pension, and the rest is ours. We can finally get rid of that tiny apartment and live like we deserve." "What if she gets better there?" Emily's laugh was icy. "With the medication they'll give her, unlikely. And even if she tries to say something, who's going to believe an old woman with dementia?" At that moment, I realized something terrible. This wasn't just my daughter being greedy. This was her erasing me, cutting me out of existence. She didn't just want my money. She wanted me to disappear. The next day, Dr. Evans called with news. "Linda, the protective order is ready, but the judge wants one more piece of proof before acting. She wants to personally verify that you are being drugged against your will." "How would we do that?" "A hair analysis. It shows the history of drug use for the past few months. It's irrefutable evidence." I cut a lock of my hair. I put it in an envelope and handed it personally to Dr. Evans when Emily went out for lunch. While I waited for the results, I discovered something even more disturbing. In a folder hidden in the guest room, I found a life insurance policy in my name, taken out 3 months after Michael's death. Beneficiaries Emily and Daniel. Value $800,000. They weren't just planning to put me away, they were betting on my death. I photographed everything with my phone, sending it immediately to Dr. Evans and her lawyer. Then I put the folder back exactly as I found it. That night was the hardest. Sitting in the living room pretending to watch television, without understanding, while Emily and Daniel chatted in the kitchen, planning their life with my money in the house I built with Michael. "How long do you think she'll last in there?" Daniel asked. "With her health, a year, maybe less. The doctor said those continuous doses of sedatives have already compromised her liver." My own daughter coldly discussing how long I had to live. The little girl I held in my arms through feverish nights, to whom I read stories whose dreams I supported even when I disagreed with them. How can someone change so much? A memory came to my mind. Emily at 16, frustrated because she couldn't have the same car as her rich friends. "You never give me what I want," she had screamed. "When you two die, I'll finally have what I deserve." At the time, we chalked it up to teenage rebellion. Now it seemed like a sinister promise. 2 days later, the results of the hair analysis arrived, confirming continuous exposure to multiple sedatives over the last 6 months in increasing doses. Ms. Hayes, the lawyer, sent me a message. "Protective order granted. Operation scheduled for December 30th. Continue as normal until then." Christmas came. Emily and Daniel organized a small dinner, just the 3 of us. "We don't want to overwhelm Mom," they told relatives. I pretended to be happy with their gift, a set of flannel pajamas appropriate for someone who would spend the rest of her life in an institution. I gave them a sealed letter. "To be opened on New Year's," I explained with a vague smile. Inside was just one sentence. "I know everything, and you are going to pay for this." The morning of December 28th, Emily received a phone call that changed everything. "Yes, this is Linda Miller's number." "Yes, I'm her daughter, her caregiver." Her face turned pale as she listened. "Blood tests. There must be some mistake. My mother hasn't had any tests recently." When she hung up, she ran to the office where Daniel was working. I followed silently, stopping outside the door. The lab called. Mom had blood tests in November, full toxicology screens. How is that possible? You go with her to all her appointments. She must have gone alone at some point. The results showed high doses of sedatives in her blood. They're questioning why there's no prescription on file. Calm down. She probably didn't understand what she was doing. It must have been some routine checkup. You don't understand. They want to talk to her directly. They mentioned something about a legal obligation to report suspicious cases. I quickly returned to my armchair before they saw me. Their plan was unraveling faster than I expected. That afternoon, as they pretended everything was normal, I noticed Emily increasing my dose. She crushed 3 pills into my tea, not the usual 2. She was getting desperate. "You look tired, Mom. This tea will help you relax." I smiled, taking the cup with trembling hands, part of my act. "Thank you, dear. You take such good care of me." As soon as she left, I poured the contents into the planter as always. The plant was almost dead by now. At dinner, Emily announced, "Mom, Daniel and I are thinking it would be better for you to have specialized care. We found a wonderful place. With doctors, 24-hour nurses." "A nursing home?" I asked, feigning innocence. "An assisted living community," Daniel corrected quickly, "for people with your difficulties." "What difficulties?" I kept my voice purposely confused. "Mom, you've been having memory problems. Last week you didn't even recognize Mrs. Amelia." It was a lie, of course. Another fabrication for her file. "Oh, I don't remember that." "Exactly," Emily said triumphantly. "It's for your own safety. We'll come visit you every Sunday." "When would that be?" I asked, my eyes downcast, my voice submissive. "Right after New Year's. It's all arranged." I nodded slowly, as if trying to process the information. "If you think it's for the best..." I saw them exchange looks of relief. They could hardly wait to get rid of me. That night, while they thought I was sleeping, I secretly packed a bag. A small bag with important documents, my legitimate medications, some clothes. I hid it all under the bed. The next day, December 29th, Emily seemed agitated. I received a discreet message from Ms. Hayes. "Operation moved up to tomorrow, 10 a.m. Be ready." It was time for the final act of my performance. That night during dinner, I let something slip that I should never have known. "Emily, I was thinking, when we sell the house, how long will it be until you buy the condo on the beach?" Emily's fork stopped in midair. Daniel choked on his water. "What are you talking about, Mom?" Emily tried to maintain her composure. "The condo on the beach. The one you made the down payment on with my money." Daniel turned pale. "Linda, you're confused again." "I'm confused about a lot of things, but not about the clonazepam in my tea or the life insurance policy in my name." The silence that followed was deafening. Emily recovered first. Daniel, she's having another delusion. Let's get her to bed. They're not delusions, I said calmly. They're facts. Just like it's a fact that tomorrow you plan to take me to Dr. Mendez to authorize my involuntary commitment to the rebirth clinic. Emily stood up abruptly. You need to rest. I'm going to make you a stronger tea. To drug me completely. No, thank you. Her face twisted with rage. She's out of control. We need to do something now. My son-in-law seemed lost, torn between loyalty to his wife and horror at what was happening. Emily, what is she saying? Don't believe her. It's the dementia talking. I smiled for the first time in months. A genuine smile, not the one of the confused old woman I had been playing. Daniel, I think you should ask your wife why she's been buying clonazepam without a prescription, or why she took out a life insurance policy for me without my knowledge. Emily's mask fell completely. You meddling old woman. You have no idea what you're talking about. She advanced toward me but stopped when I raised my cell phone. I'm recording everything, dear, just like I recorded every confession, every plan, every crushed pill for the last 2 months. Her eyes widened in panic. Daniel looked like he was in shock. It's your word against mine, she said, trying to regain control. And you're just a senile old woman. Oh, really? Then how do you explain this? I showed the toxicology results on my phone. Or this. I played an audio clip of her discussing the sale of my house. Daniel's face transformed into pure devastation. Emily, what did you do? What had to be done? She's old, Daniel. She was going to die soon anyway. Why not take advantage of what she has? Her words echoed in the room, cruel and final. My son-in-law recoiled as if he'd been slapped. I can't be a part of this, he muttered. What you knew from the beginning. Don't play the saint now. Daniel grabbed his coat. I need to think. This has gone too far. He stormed out, slamming the door. Emily turned to me, her face disfigured by hatred. Look what you've done. You always ruin everything for me. I ruined it. My voice was calm. I gave my life for you, Emily. Gave up career opportunities to raise you. And you repay me by trying to kill me. Kill? Don't be dramatic. I just wanted you to be properly cared for. While you spend my money and live in my house. She laughed a cold, dismissive sound. Who do you think they're going to believe? I have 3 medical reports confirming your dementia. I have witnesses who saw your erratic behavior for months. I have records of incidents. And I have recordings and blood tests, and footage of you poisoning my tea. Something changed in her eyes, a brief flicker of doubt. You're lying. I'm a retired criminal law professor, dear. Did you really think I wouldn't document everything, that I wouldn't build an ironclad case? Emily started pacing nervously around the room. What do you want? I want you to get out of my house now. And go where you destroyed my marriage. No, you destroyed your marriage when you decided to poison your mother. She grabbed her purse, throwing me a look of pure hatred. This isn't over. Yes, it is, I answered calmly. The police will be here tomorrow at 10 a.m. If you're still here, you will be arrested. You wouldn't do that to me. I'm your daughter. And I'm your mother. That didn't stop you from trying to destroy me. She left that night, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I was left alone in the silent house, exhausted from months of acting devastated by the betrayal, but also strangely at peace. I could finally sleep without fear of being poisoned. The morning of December 30th, I woke before dawn. It felt strange to move around the house without feigning confusion, without monitoring every word and gesture. For the first time in almost a year, I could just be myself. I made my own breakfast, savoring the simple pleasure of an untainted cup of coffee. At 9 a.m., my phone rang. It was Daniel. Linda, I didn't know how far Emily was going. I swear I didn't know about the medication. But you knew about the plan to commit me about selling my house. A long silence. Yes, and I have no excuse. I believed her when she said you were getting worse, that you needed constant supervision. Where is she now? I don't know. She didn't come home last night. She's not answering my calls. A chill of concern went through me. Emily was many things, but impulsive wasn't one of them. She always planned calculated. What could she be plotting now? Daniel, if you hear anything, let me know immediately. She could still be dangerous. Do you think she would try to hurt you? The question hung heavily between us. I don't know what she's capable of anymore. At 9:45, the doorbell rang. Ms. Hayes and 2 police officers were at the door, along with Dr. Evans. Mrs. Miller, we came early because we received information that your daughter might try something desperate. What kind of information? We got a call from Dr. Mendez at the Rebirth Clinic. Your daughter showed up there this morning claiming you had a breakdown during the night. She tried to move up your commitment to today, presenting already signed power of attorney papers. I felt my blood run cold. But I'm right here. Exactly. The doctor found it suspicious and contacted us. Emily fled when he mentioned he needed to verify with the specialized police department. Detective Miller, a firm, middle-aged woman with sharp eyes, stepped forward. Mrs. Miller, based on the evidence Ms. Hayes has shown us, we have reason to believe your daughter poses a real danger to you. We need to take your formal statement and execute the protective order immediately. For the next hour, we went over the entire timeline. The systematic poisoning, the manipulation, the false medical evaluations, the attempted theft, and forced commitment. I showed the recordings, the test results, the footage from the hidden camera. With each new piece of evidence, the detective's face grew harder. This goes beyond elder abuse and attempted fraud. We're talking about attempted murder. The doses of sedatives we found in your toxicology report could easily cause liver failure or respiratory arrest. The doorbell rang again. It was David, my brother, looking worried and confused. Linda, what's going on? Emily called me saying you had been committed. Before I could explain, my phone rang. Blocked number. I put it on speaker. Mom? Emily's voice sounded strangely calm. You won. Congratulations. Emily, where are you? We need to talk. Talk. Now you want to talk after calling the police on your own daughter. You tried to kill me, Emily. A dry laugh. Always so dramatic. I was taking care of you. Drugging isolation forgery. That's not care. A long silence. Then, you know what's funny? You always said I was just like Dad. Too ambitious, too impatient. Remember what he used to say? In this life, you take what you want, or you die trying. I felt a weight in my chest. It was true. Michael was a driven man, sometimes ruthless in his goals. Emily had inherited that from him, but without the moral compass that balanced it. Your father would have never done something like this. He had limits principles. Really? Are you so sure about that? Because he taught me that opportunities don't wait. That sentimentality is for the weak. The detective gestured silently, pointing at the phone. They were tracing the call. Emily, come home. We can work this out. Work it out like you worked out Grandpa's will. You think I don't know? I was confused. What are you talking about? Dad told me everything. How Grandpa left the house to Uncle Claudio, but you contested the will because he was senile. You hypocrite. You did exactly what I'm trying to do. I felt as if I'd been slapped. My father had indeed changed his will in the last months of his life, influenced by my younger brother. I contested it, yes, but because there was proof of manipulation, of coercion. The situation was completely different. Or was it, that was 30 years ago, Emily, and it was different. Different how? Because it was you doing it, the great law professor, the ethics specialist using the same tricks you now condemn. The detective signaled that they had located the signal. 2 officers immediately left. Honey, please don't make it worse. Worse, you destroyed my life. Daniel left me. I'll lose my job when this gets out. All because you couldn't accept that your time was up. Your time is up when you die, Emily, not when your daughter decides you've become an inconvenience. Another silence. Then something that chilled me to the bone. You know what Dad told me once, that you were afraid of being alone, that your worst nightmare was dying abandoned. I think in the end, that's exactly what's going to happen. The line went dead. The detective took the phone. We tracked a signal to a motel on the highway about 20 miles from here. We're on our way. David, who had listened to everything in silence, looked devastated. Linda, I had no idea. She would call me regularly saying you were getting worse, that you'd barely recognize me. We were all deceived, David. She planned it meticulously. My brother hesitated. What she said about Dad's will. Not now, I interrupted. We have more urgent problems. 3 agonizing hours passed. Finally, the detective returned. Her face said it all. Mrs. Miller, I'm so sorry. Emily was gone from the motel when we arrived. She left a letter addressed to you. The envelope was sealed. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Mom, by the time you read this, I'll be long gone. I don't regret what I did, only that I wasn't more careful. You always thought I wanted your money. Maybe at first that was it. But I realized what I really wanted was to see you helpless, to see you lose the control you always had over everything and everyone. You suffocated me with expectations. You belittled me with your achievements. You made me feel small and inadequate my whole life. Now you know what it feels like to be powerless. Don't look for me. I'll find my own way, like I should have a long time ago. Emily. I let the letter fall to the floor, feeling as if the air had been sucked out of the room. How does a mother not notice so much hatred growing inside her own child? We'll issue a warrant for her arrest, the detective said. She won't be able to use credit cards or bank accounts without being flagged. What if she leaves the country? We've already alerted federal authorities. All airports and borders will be notified. But I knew my daughter. Determined, meticulous patient. If she didn't want to be found, she probably wouldn't be. That night was the first I slept without fear in my own home. But it was also the first I truly cried for the daughter I had lost, not just now, but maybe many years ago, without me ever realizing it. January arrived, bringing heavy rains and the reality of my new situation. Emily had completely vanished. Her car was found abandoned at a bus terminal 30 miles out of town. The investigation revealed she had been planning this for longer than we imagined. We found a bank account in Paraguay, the detective explained in one of our weekly meetings. Opened 6 months before your husband's death with regular deposits since then. Where did the money come from? We're checking, but it seems your pension wasn't the only thing she siphoned off. Daniel agreed to cooperate with the investigation in exchange for immunity. It was through him that we discovered the extent of Emily's betrayal. She started planning everything when Mr. Miller was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He explained, avoiding my gaze. She said you two never bothered to secure her future, that it was our chance to finally have what we deserved. And you went along with that. At first, it was just about taking care of you after his death, but then Emily started talking about how it would be better if you were deemed incompetent, how we could manage your assets more efficiently. The shame on his face was genuine, but it didn't lessen the pain of the betrayal. He went on to detail how Emily had funneled nearly $400,000 from my accounts over the months, how she had manipulated the doctors, how she had meticulously planned every step. The original plan was slower, a natural decline over 2 years, but when you started leaving large sums of money for her nephew in the will, Emily decided to speed things up. I felt a pang of confusion. What nephew? Daniel looked surprised. Anna's son, your niece. You amended your will to include him as a beneficiary of 30% of your assets. Anna was my late sister's daughter. I had never amended my will to include her son. This was another of Emily's schemes, document forgery to create an additional motive to have me declared incompetent. The following weeks were spent undoing the damage. I canceled the fake power of attorney. I reversed fraudulent bank transfers. I fired lawyers hired without my knowledge. With each new discovery, the chasm of Emily's betrayal deepened. One afternoon, while organizing papers in the office that once belonged to Michael, I found an envelope addressed to me in his handwriting. It was dated 2 weeks before his death, but had never been delivered. With trembling hands, I opened it. Linda, my love, if you're reading this, it's because I didn't find the courage to tell you in person. Something is wrong with Emily. I found her notes on medication side effects in the elderly procedures for declaring mental incompetence. At first, I thought it was related to her work, but then I saw our names in the notes, plans, values, timelines. I don't want to believe our daughter is capable of what these papers suggest. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the illness and the drugs are making me paranoid. But if something happens to you after I'm gone, look in the false bottom of my document drawer. Forgive me for not being stronger to face this while I could. With all my love, Michael. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. Michael knew, or at least suspected, and didn't have the strength to confront me with it in his final days. My heart pounding, I went to the drawer he mentioned. After a few minutes of examining it, I found the mechanism that revealed the false bottom. Inside was a folder with copies of emails, bank statements, and most disturbingly, a series of internet searches for untraceable poisons and how to simulate dementia in the elderly, all from Emily's computer. Michael had been quietly gathering evidence while fighting the cancer that was consuming him, evidence that our daughter planned to destroy us. I took everything to Detective Miller, who examined the documents with a grave expression. This changes a lot. If she was planning something against your husband while he was still alive, do you think she could have... I couldn't finish the sentence. It was too unthinkable. We'll request an exhumation of the body. I know it's difficult, but we need to be sure. The next few weeks were a nightmare. The local media got wind of the story. Law professor poisoned by own daughter. Reporters camped out on my doorstep. I had to install a full security system, change my phone numbers, and limit my outings. But the real blow came in March, when the exhumation results came in. We found traces of arsenic, explained the medical examiner, Dr. Paula, at levels too high to be natural or accidental. Arsenic, but Michael died of cancer. The cancer was real, but our tests indicate he was slowly poisoned over several months. Arsenic in low doses causes symptoms easily confused with the effects of chemotherapy. Nausea, weakness, mental confusion. Are you saying my daughter sped up her own father's death? The doctor's expression was one of deep compassion. The tests are conclusive. I can't say who administered the poison, only that it was present. I left that room feeling like my world had imploded all over again. It wasn't enough that Emily had tried to destroy me. She had potentially killed Michael, the man who raised her with so much love, who sacrificed so much for her. The arrest warrant was updated. Emily was now wanted for attempted murder against me and first-degree murder against Michael. In April, I received a package with no return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper with a typewritten message. You'll never find me. I've started a new life with a new name in a new country. As for Dad, he chose you over me until the very end. I'll miss him despite everything. Don't think this is over. Someday, when you least expect it, we'll see each other again. I showed the note to the police, who tried to trace its origin without success. The implicit threat made me reinforce the house's security even further, installing more cameras, hiring a private security guard. Living in fear became my new normal. Every unfamiliar delivery person, every blocked number, call, every car parked for too long near my house, everything became a potential threat. David moved into my house temporarily, worried for my safety and well-being. His presence was comforting, but also a constant reminder of what I had lost. One night over dinner, he finally broached the subject we had been avoiding. Linda, do you think we could have known that Emily was like that? I sighed, putting my fork down. I've been asking myself that for months, searching for signs, moments where I could have intervened. She was always intense, even as a child. Remember when she was 10, and that other girl won the science prize she wanted, how she meticulously planned to ruin the girl's reputation the following year. I did remember. We had attributed it to an exaggerated competitiveness, something Michael encouraged in his own way. Winners don't accept defeat, he would say. We never imagined that mentality would morph into something so dark. Michael and I thought she would outgrow it with maturity, that it was just a phase. It's not your fault, Linda. Some people are just born different. She's my daughter, David. She grew up under my roof with my values, my love. How could I not realize something so fundamental was wrong? He had no answer for that. No one did. In May, 6 months after discovering Emily's plan, I began to reclaim some semblance of normalcy. I went back to giving occasional lectures at the law school. I rejoined my book club. I reconnected with friends Emily had driven away. It was at one of those lectures that I met Sarah, a graduate student, researching personality disorders and criminal behavior. After hearing my story, which I now used as a case study in my criminal law classes, she approached me. "Professor Miller, I read about your case. I believe your daughter exhibits classic characteristics of antisocial personality disorder, possibly combined with pathological narcissism. Do you think she's a psychopath?" The word seemed absurd applied to my own daughter. I prefer not to use that term, which isn't clinical. But individuals with this profile often show signs from childhood: cruelty to animals, constant manipulation, lack of remorse, and inability to form genuine emotional bonds. I thought of young Emily, the neighbor's cat that turned up dead mysteriously after the owner complained about its noise, the friends she regularly discarded when they were no longer useful, the ease with which she lied, even when caught red-handed. We always attributed it to a strong, determined personality. Michael would say she had grit, that she didn't let things get her down. Sarah nodded. It's common. These behaviors are often reinterpreted as positive qualities by parents. Assertiveness, independence, determination, especially when the child is functional and successful in other areas. So there was nothing we could have done. Early intervention can help, but not always. Some studies suggest neurobiological components that affect the capacity for empathy and emotional processing. The conversation with Sarah opened a door to understanding I didn't know I needed. I began to study the subject, trying to make sense of Emily's behavior, searching for some explanation beyond simple evil or greed. It wasn't about forgiveness. Her crimes were unforgivable. It was about finding peace amidst the chaos she had left behind. In July, a year after the poisoning began, I received news that the beachfront condo Emily had bought with my money would finally be auctioned, and the funds would be returned to my accounts. Justice was working, albeit slowly. Visiting the condo with the realtor before the auction, a strange nostalgia washed over me. It was exactly the kind of place Michael and I had always dreamed of for our retirement. Ocean view, spacious balcony, a constant breeze. She knew me well, I murmured, looking at the blue horizon. She knew exactly what I would love. "I'm sorry," the realtor asked. Nothing, just thinking aloud. As I walked through the empty rooms, I realized something disturbing. Emily hadn't chosen this place just for the investment. She had chosen it because she knew I would love it. It was my dream condo, which she planned to enjoy after discarding me. That realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Even in her worst moments, even while planning to destroy me, she still thought like my daughter. She still knew my tastes, my dreams. It was a perverted intimacy, a deep knowledge used to hurt, not to love. On the way home, I made a decision. I wouldn't sell the condo. I would keep it as a constant reminder of what had happened, but also as a symbol of my survival. One day, maybe I would even manage to appreciate it without the shadow of betrayal. The first anniversary of Michael's death arrived in August, bringing a wave of conflicting emotions. Grief for him, rage at Emily, guilt for not realizing what was happening under my own roof. I held a small ceremony at the cemetery. David and a few close friends attended. I noticed a dark car parked in the distance, someone watching through tinted windows. My heart raced. "Do you think it's her?" David asked, following my gaze. "I don't know. Maybe." Two security guards hired by the police discreetly approached the vehicle, which quickly drove away. We never found out who was there. It was that afternoon, returning from the cemetery, that I finally fully opened Michael's office. For nearly a year, I had avoided organizing his things entering his space. It felt like a betrayal to finalize his existence in this house. On his desk, I found a journal, something I didn't know he kept. The entries began 3 months before his death, apparently, when his suspicions about Emily arose. "Found E going through my medications today. Said she was organizing, but there was something strange in her expression. Since then, I've noticed a different taste in the water she brings me. Dreamed of E. As a little girl yesterday. That time we found the neighbor's hamster dead, and she said it was an accident. The look in her eyes. the same one I see now when she talks about what she'll do when I'm not here. Elle doesn't realize. How could she? It's our daughter. Some things are unthinkable, even for the brightest mind. The last entry, just 2 days before he died. I'm too weak to confront her. Too weak to protect Elle from what's coming. I've left the evidence where Elle will eventually find it. I hope it's not too late. I hope E hasn't gone too far by the time Elle finds out. Silent tears streamed down my face as I closed the journal. Michael had died carrying this terrible knowledge, trying to protect me to the very end, even when he no longer had the strength to fight. That night, I made another decision. It was time to use my experience for something bigger than my own pain. The following week, I approached Detective Miller with a proposal. I want to create a foundation for victims of elder abuse. Use my legal knowledge, my personal experience, and my resources to help others who are going through what I went through. She smiled. That would be extraordinary, Professor. We have so many cases, so little support. And so the Michael Miller Foundation was born, dedicated to offering legal, psychological, and financial assistance to elderly victims of abuse, especially by family members. The work at the foundation gave me a new purpose. Every case we helped, every elderly person we managed to protect, was a small victory against what Emily represented: greed, cruelty, the willingness to sacrifice the most vulnerable for self-interest. In September, a particularly difficult case came to us. Selma, 75, was being systematically drugged by her son and daughter-in-law, who had already sold her house and were about to commit her against her will. The similarity to my own situation was terrifying. "How did you know something was wrong?" I asked during our first consultation. "My cat," she replied simply, "got sick after drinking water from my glass. That's when I realized there was something strange about what they were giving me to drink." A shiver ran down my spine. So simple, so obvious, and yet I hadn't noticed when it happened to me. We worked intensely on Selma's case. We secured evidence, alerted the police, and obtained an emergency protective order. When the son was arrested trying to flee with her money, I felt a bitter satisfaction. It was a small justice in a world where Emily was still free. In October, nearly a year since I discovered Emily's plan, I received a call from Detective Miller. "Professor, we have a lead on your daughter. A woman matching her description was seen in Buenos Aires using the name Livia Campos." My heart soared. "Are you sure?" "We're still verifying, but the security footage is quite convincing. We're in contact with Interpol." Moving from victim to hunter was a strange transition. Part of me wanted justice. I wanted to see Emily face the consequences of her actions. Another part feared the reunion, the inevitable confrontation. 2 weeks later, the confirmation came. It really was Emily. She had built a new identity in Argentina, working as a financial consultant using forged documents. "The Argentine authorities are going to arrest her for extradition," the detective explained. "It should happen in the next few days." I couldn't sleep that night. Images of young Emily, laughing on the swing Michael built in the backyard, sleeping with her head on my lap during car trips, proudly showing her first A in school. They mixed with the reality of the woman she had become. The next day, as the operation was about to happen, I got the news. Emily had disappeared again. Somehow she knew she was being watched and fled before the police reached her apartment. "How is that possible?" I asked the detective, frustrated. "Does she have informants in the police?" "We're investigating. It could have been a coincidence, or she might have noticed the surveillance." But I knew my daughter. There were no coincidences in her world, only meticulous planning. She had eyes and ears in places we couldn't even imagine. In November, I met with Sarah again, now a consultant for the foundation. She had specialized in cases of personality disorders and family crimes. "Linda, I read something interesting about your case. Have you ever heard of the jewelry box syndrome?" "No, what is it?" "It's when a pathological narcissist sees family members as extensions of themselves, valuable objects to be displayed or used when convenient and discarded when they no longer serve a purpose, like jewels in a box." "Exactly. Your daughter probably saw you and your husband that way, as her properties, not people with their own rights. That would explain why she felt so betrayed when Michael left evidence against her." Sarah nodded. In her mind, he was a possession that turned on her an unforgivable betrayal. That perspective, as disturbing as it was, helped explain Emily's behavior. It didn't make what she did any easier to accept, but it offered a more complete picture, a glimpse into her distorted mind. In December, exactly 1 year after I had confronted Emily and Daniel, the doorbell rang in the middle of the night. David, who was still living with me, answered cautiously. It was Daniel, pale and trembling. "She was in my apartment," he said, his voice cracking. "Emily got in while I was sleeping." My blood ran cold. "Did she do anything to you physically?" "Not physically. She left a message on the bedroom wall in red lipstick. 'It's not over yet,' and a photo of us, you and me, with her face scratched out." The police were called immediately. The house was searched, security reinforced. But I knew that physical barriers meant little to someone like Emily. If she wanted to send a message, she would find a way. Daniel asked to stay with us for a few days until his apartment was deemed safe. I agreed more out of pity than trust. Despite his cooperation with the authorities, I never fully forgave his role in the conspiracy. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I sat on the balcony with a glass of wine, gazing at the stars Michael and I used to watch together. "What do we do now?" I asked the sky as if it could hear me. "How do I live with this constant threat?" There was no answer, of course, only the silence of the night and the certainty that somewhere Emily was watching, planning, waiting for the perfect moment. For the first time, I allowed myself to consider a possibility I had avoided for months. Maybe the only way to truly end this was to find her before she found me, to take the initiative, not just react. The next morning, I approached Detective Miller with an unusual proposal. "I want to be the bait. To draw Emily out of hiding." "Absolutely not," was the immediate response. "It's too dangerous." "More dangerous than living in fear, waiting for her to show up when I least expect it. She's always one step ahead of us, Detective. This time, we need to anticipate her moves." Miller crossed her arms, her face a mixture of concern and reluctant consideration. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Emily likes control, meticulous planning. We're going to take that away from her. We're going to announce that I'm donating the mansion to charity, effectively eliminating any chance she could ever reclaim it. And I'll move into the beach condo, the one she always wanted." "You'd be exposing yourself." "Under police protection, advanced cameras, 24-hour security. She'll show up, I'm sure of it. And when she does, we'll be ready." The detective considered it for a long moment. "It's risky, but it could work. I'll assemble a specialized team and develop a detailed plan. If we decide to go through with this, it will be with the utmost security possible." In the following weeks, our trap took shape. An article in the local newspaper announced my decision to donate the mansion to be converted into a support center for elderly abuse victims. Strategically placed interviews mentioned my plans to finally enjoy the beach condo, which was always my dream. David and Daniel vehemently disagreed with the plan. "It's suicide, Linda," my brother insisted. "You're deliberately provoking her." "I agree," Daniel said. "You don't know her truly dark side like I do. She's relentless when challenged." "That's exactly why we need to end this," I replied. "I can't live the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, waiting for her to appear." In January, I officially moved into the beach condo. The police installed state-of-the-art cameras, motion sensors, and maintained discreet 24-hour surveillance. 2 plainclothes officers lived in the apartment next door, another 2 on the floor below. I wore a tracking and panic device at all times. On the outside, I looked like a vulnerable elderly woman living alone. On the inside, it was a full-scale police operation. For the first few weeks, nothing happened. I established a predictable routine. Morning walks on the beach, shopping at the same market on Tuesdays and Fridays, dinner at the same restaurant on Sundays. In February, we noticed a pattern. A woman with dark hair would occasionally appear in the same places as me, always keeping her distance, always wearing sunglasses. We could never get a clear enough image to confirm if it was Emily. "She's testing the waters," the detective commented during one of our weekly meetings, "checking your routine, looking for visible security." "And when will she act?" "When she thinks she's found an opening, when she feels confident." March arrived with heavy rains and frequent storms. On one of those nights, as a furious storm battered the coast, the power in the building went out. Immediately, the police operations emergency generators kicked in, but to any outside observer, the building was completely dark. My phone buzzed. It was the detective. "Stay alert. This could be the moment she chose." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "I'm ready." The hours passed slowly. I sat in the darkened living room, watching the rain through the window, a tranquilizer gun hidden under the cushion beside me, a precaution the police had insisted on despite my initial reluctance. Shortly after midnight, I heard an almost imperceptible sound on the balcony. The night vision cameras showed a hooded figure working on the lock of the sliding door. With precise, almost professional movements, the figure managed to open it in seconds. The detective spoke into my discreet earpiece. "Don't react. Let her in. We're ready." The door slid open silently. The figure entered, moving like a shadow through the room. I remained motionless in the armchair, pretending to be asleep, just as I had done so many times during the months of being poisoned. The figure approached, stopping a few feet from me. Slowly, she lowered her hood. It was Emily. Her hair was different, shorter, dyed black. Her face thinner, harder. But her eyes the same calculating eyes I had last seen over a year ago. "Mother," she said softly, "did you miss me?" I kept my eyes closed, my breathing steady. She came closer. "I know you're awake. I know this is all a trap. The cops in the building, the cameras, the sensors. Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" I slowly opened my eyes, meeting her gaze. "Then why did you come?" She smiled that cold smile I now recognized as a stranger's, not my daughter's. "Because you challenged me. Because I thought it would be fun to show you that I can get in and out whenever I want, despite all your precautions." "So you came just to prove a point, not to hurt me?" She shrugged, walking casually around the room, examining objects as if in an art gallery. "I've already hurt you. I destroyed your trust, your security, your family. I showed you that you're not as smart as you think. And yet here I am, free, healthy, building something new from the wreckage you left behind." Something flashed in her eyes. Rage, perhaps, or envy. Always the great Linda Miller, the brilliant professor, the perfect mother, the brave victim. You know what I learned all these years watching you, that you feed on the admiration of others. Without an audience, you don't exist. And you, Emily, who are you without the hatred you feel for me? She stopped as if the question had surprised her. For a brief moment, I saw something in her eyes, a vulnerability, maybe even confusion. Then the mask was back in place. "I am a survivor, someone who takes what she wants, who isn't trapped by arbitrary rules or useless sentimentality." "And does that make you happy?" She laughed, a harsh sound I had never heard from her before. "Happiness is for weak people who need to console themselves with crumbs. I seek power, control. That is real." I stood up slowly. "You could have had everything, Emily. Our love, our support, our inheritance eventually. Why did you choose this path?" She came closer, her face inches from mine. "Because it was too tedious to wait. Because I wanted to see you fall. Because—" She stopped as if realizing she was revealing too much. She took a few steps back. "It doesn't matter anymore. I just came to tell you that this is never going to end. You can have your police, your foundation, your new life, but you'll always have the fear. You'll always know I can come back at any moment. No, Emily, this ends today." As if on cue, the lights flashed on. Agents emerged from every door, weapons aimed. Detective Miller stood in front of them. "Emily Miller Silva, you are under arrest for attempted murder, first-degree murder fraud document forgery, and breaking and entering." For a second, Emily's face showed genuine surprise. She hadn't anticipated everything after all. Then, inexplicably, she smiled. "Brilliant mother, truly brilliant. Using my own ego against me." As the officers moved to cuff her, Emily made a swift movement, pulling something from her pocket. I instinctively stepped back. "Hold your fire," the detective shouted. "Calm down, everyone," Emily said, showing what was in her hands, a small photograph of me with Michael. "I just wanted to return this. I found it among Dad's things." As she was being handcuffed, she kept her eyes fixed on mine. "This isn't the end, Mother. It's just an intermission." I watched in silence as they led her away. When the door closed behind them, I collapsed into the armchair, exhausted and relieved. The detective returned minutes later. "She's secure in the patrol car. We found a backpack hidden on the fire escape with fake documents cache and a vial of arsenic." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of that information. She hadn't come just to provoke. She had come to finish what she started. "Is it really over?" I asked, more to myself than to the detective. For all practical purposes, yes. She'll face trial on multiple serious charges. With the evidence we have, she'll spend decades in prison. But we both knew that with someone like Emily, you could never be absolutely sure. She was patient, meticulous, relentless. And now she had a new reason to hate me. Emily's pretrial detention was ordered immediately. The trial was set for July, a 5-month wait that seemed endless. I would be the prosecution's main witness, forced to relive every moment of that traumatic experience before a crowded courtroom. David insisted I move back to the mansion where security had been reinforced. Reluctantly, I agreed. The beach condo, which I had begun to appreciate despite its complicated history, was now tainted by Emily's presence, by the reminder that she had managed to invade even that space. In April, I received an unexpected request. Daniel wanted to visit me. "Why?" I asked the detective who relayed the request. "He says he has important information about Emily that he never shared before something related to her long-term plans." I agreed to meet him in a neutral location, the Foundation's office, with security guards present. When he walked in, he looked older, as if the last year had taken a heavy toll. "Linda, thank you for seeing me." "What do you want, Daniel?" He took a deep breath. Emily had a plan B. She always did. She told me parts of it, never the whole thing, but enough for me to understand that she never intended for you to just disappear into a nursing home. A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" "She had contacts. People who could stage a natural death even inside a high-security institution. A nurse an air injection in an IV line. Murder," I concluded. "Yes, and the most disturbing part is she still has those contacts even in prison." I understood immediately what he was suggesting. "You think I'm in danger even with her locked up?" "I'm sure of it. The question isn't if she'll try something, but when." I gestured to the security reports on my desk. "I have guards' cameras, protocols." "And she has time, a lot of time to plan to find the one flaw no one thought to cover." In the following days, we increased security even further. Detective Miller, now a close friend as well as my official protector, assigned an officer exclusively to review Emily's contacts in prison, who she spoke to, who she wrote to, every little detail. But Daniel was right about one thing. Emily had time and patience. In May, 2 weeks before the trial, it happened. Not to me, as everyone feared, but to a key witness. Dr. Mendez, the doctor who had refused to cooperate with Emily's commitment plans and had alerted the authorities. He was found dead in his apartment, an apparent heart attack. No signs of a break-in, no suspicious marks. Just a 60-year-old man who died in his sleep. Except the autopsy revealed traces of a substance that slowly paralyzes the respiratory system, virtually undetectable unless you know exactly what to look for. "It's a message," the detective said when she gave me the news. "She's proving she can reach anyone, anytime." For the first time, I felt true fear. Not just for myself, but for everyone involved in the case. David, Daniel, Dr. Evans, Detective Miller herself. Anyone could be next. We launched a full review of the procedures at the prison where Emily was being held. We discovered she had befriended a guard exchanging stories about abusive, manipulative mothers. The guard was immediately removed. In her locker, they found 3 letters addressed to different people using a seemingly innocent code that, when deciphered, revealed detailed instructions for monitoring my movements and those of the investigation team. Emily was transferred to solitary confinement with severe communication restrictions, but the damage was done. Her network was active, running independently of her now. In June, a week before the trial, David was in a car accident. The brakes failed on a downhill slope. Miraculously, he survived with only a few fractures and a mild concussion. The investigation revealed the brakes had been professionally tampered with. The net was closing in. Everyone close to me was becoming a potential target. It was then that I made my most difficult decision. I sought out the prosecutor in charge of the case. "I want to propose a deal," I said, sitting in his office. "What kind of deal, Professor?" "I want you to offer Emily a reduced sentence in exchange for complete information about her network of contacts and a commitment to stop the threats." The prosecutor looked shocked. "With all due respect, that would be a terrible mistake. She is extremely dangerous. And she will continue to be with a maximum or minimum sentence. The difference is, with a deal, we can at least dismantle her network and ensure some protection for the people I love. She would never agree to limit her own future options." "Perhaps not, but she is pragmatic above all else. If she sees a clear benefit, she will consider it." After much discussion, the prosecutor reluctantly agreed to present the offer. In exchange for complete and verifiable information on all her criminal contacts and the cessation of all threats and attempts against me and my associates, Emily would receive a sentence reduction that could mean parole in 12 years instead of 30. To my surprise, she accepted almost immediately. The trial turned into a sentencing hearing after her guilty plea. Emily provided names, dates, and details about a surprisingly extensive network of contacts in the criminal underworld. Authorities in 3 states conducted simultaneous arrests, dismantling what was revealed to be a sophisticated operation of swindlers and hitmen specializing in natural deaths of wealthy elderly people. On the day of the final hearing, I faced Emily for the last time. She seemed calm, almost serene, as if she could finally relax now that the cards were on the table. When I was given the opportunity to speak, I was brief. "Despite everything that has happened, Emily is still my daughter. I cannot erase 40 years of love with 1 year of horror. I support the proposed agreement not out of clemency, but because I believe it is the best solution to protect other potential victims and dismantle a criminal network that threatens the most vulnerable." When it was her turn to speak, Emily surprised me. "I accepted this deal because I recognize the ingenuity of the trap my mother set. She knows me well enough to know that I wouldn't resist the chance to prove my superiority. That is precisely what led me to prison." She paused, looking directly at me. "I'm not going to ask for forgiveness because I don't regret what I did. I only regret not being more careful. But I will honor the terms of this agreement because it is the most rational option available to me now. When I get out, and I will get out eventually, I will not pose a threat to Linda Miller or anyone associated with her. Our paths are permanently separate." The judge accepted the deal and handed down the sentence. 15 years with the possibility of parole after 12, considering good behavior. Leaving the courthouse, I felt an immense weight being lifted from my shoulders. It wasn't the ending I had imagined. There was no real justice for Michael. There was no genuine penance from Emily, but it was an ending I could live with, one that would allow me to move forward without constantly looking over my shoulder. David, still recovering from the accident, squeezed my hand. "Do you think she'll stick to the deal?" "Yes, not out of morality or remorse, but out of cold calculation. She knows that breaking it would only result in worse consequences for her." In the following months, life slowly returned to some semblance of normalcy. The foundation thrived, helping dozens of elderly people in situations similar to mine. I went back to teaching occasionally, using my experience as teaching material for future elder law attorneys. In December, I received a letter from prison, Emily's unmistakable handwriting. For a moment, I considered just destroying it unread. But curiosity won. "Mother, I imagine your surprise at receiving this letter. The prison psychiatrists encourage me to process my feelings and seek resolution through communication. Ridiculous, but here we are. I want you to know that I don't feel hatred for you now, only a curious admiration. You proved to be a much more formidable opponent than I had calculated. In another life, under other circumstances, perhaps we could have been allies instead of adversaries. I am not seeking reconciliation or forgiveness, only the acknowledgement that in the end, we are more alike than either of us would like to admit. both calculating, determined, willing to do whatever it takes to achieve our goals. The difference: you call your methods justice. I call mine pragmatism. I will not respond if you write back. This is not a door I am opening. Just a thought I'm sharing. Until someday, perhaps Emily. I burned the letter that same night, watching the flames consume her words. There was nothing there that needed to be preserved or answered. In January, on what would have been Michael's 80th birthday, I visited his grave with fresh flowers. I sat beside him as I used to on our balcony on Sunday afternoons. "It's over, Michael," I said to the wind. "Not in the way we expected, but it's over. I hope you understand why I made the deal. Some battles can't be won with force, only with strategy." That same day, I finalized the sale of the mansion to the foundation for a symbolic price. The place that had witnessed so much love and then so much betrayal would now serve to protect and support other elderly people. I moved permanently into the beach condo, renovated and redesigned to erase the memories of Emily's invasion. It was time to create new memories, a new chapter. David moved to the same city, buying a nearby apartment. Daniel, after completing his testimony and a rehabilitation program, moved to another state, occasionally sending updates on his new life. In March, I had a visit from Sarah, the researcher, who had become a consultant for the foundation and a personal friend. "How are you really doing, Linda?" she asked, as we watched the sunset from the balcony. "At peace most of the time. I still have occasional nightmares. I still tense up when I drink tea. I still double-check every door and window before I go to sleep." "And what about Emily?" I reflected for a moment. "I've accepted that my daughter, the little girl I raised and loved, no longer exists. Maybe she never existed in the way I saw her. The woman in prison is a stranger who shares my DNA and my name. Nothing more. That must be incredibly painful." "It is, but it's also liberating in a way. I can't change the past. I can't bring Michael back. I can't have the daughter I thought I had. But I can build something meaningful from the ruins." Sarah nodded. "And that's exactly what you've been doing." The foundation had expanded to 3 states, offering legal, psychological, and financial assistance to hundreds of elderly people. Every successful case, every person protected, was a small victory against what Emily represented. In July, a year had passed since the sentencing. I received a call from Detective Miller. "I thought you'd like to know. Emily has been an exemplary inmate. She's become a tutor for other prisoners, helping them with basic education. The psychiatrists report significant progress in her treatment." "She was always good at giving people exactly what they want to see," I commented. "True, but it's also true that she has scrupulously honored every term of the agreement. No suspicious communication, no threats, nothing. Because it's the most rational path for her right now." "Yes, and maybe that's all we can hope for." That night, sitting on the balcony with a book and a glass of wine, I realized that for the first time in a long time, I wasn't constantly on alert, constantly on guard. The fear was still there, probably always would be, but it had become a distant murmur instead of a constant scream. At 73, I had survived the deepest betrayal imaginable. I had faced my own daughter in a battle of wills and strategy. I had rebuilt my life from the pieces left behind. It wasn't the ending I had imagined for my story. There was no emotional reconciliation or dramatic redemption, just a pragmatic truce between 2 women who were once mother and daughter and were now just adversaries in a forced stalemate. But it was an ending I could live with, one that allowed me to sleep at night and wake up in the morning with purpose and hope, one that honored the memory of Michael and the love we shared instead of the betrayal that tried to destroy it. And maybe in the end, that was victory enough. Now, if you enjoyed this story, click on the next video appearing on your screen because in it, there's a tale of betrayal and twists like you've never seen before.